Ideally, what psychoanalysis does is that psychoanalysis relies heavily on tapping into your defense mechanisms. There are many defense mechanisms. There's denial, there's repression, there's regression, rationalization, projection, many defense mechanisms. And the basic tool that psychoanalysis tries to use is to break through that defense mechanism that you've become so good at using, and get to the id, and get to the unconscious mind, and actually try to make you face the parts of yourself that you are not able to face. So if you have, for example, a couple who, I can explain this best in terms of examples. So I saw once video recorded session of a couple who were going through a divorce, and the wife had an affair. And when they came into therapy, there was this extreme volatile, and aggressive relationship, and they were shouting at each other and abusing each other. And the husband was blaming the wife for having the affair, and he said, you're the reason that our marriage is breaking up. And they came to a psychoanalyst, and through therapy, the psychoanalyst, so what you're seeing here is, first of all, you're seeing denial on the husband's side, because you're seeing that the husband is completely unaware of his role in the marriage breaking. So the first step for the psychoanalyst would be to get through the denial and get the patient to accept that he also has a role to play in his marriage breaking down. It's not just his wife's affair. The second step would be to go into the repressions that he has. Probably he had a very demanding mother. So this wife of this man kept complaining that, he's always working and he doesn't have time for me, and that's why I had an affair. And the man couldn't accept that. And so then the second step for the psychoanalyst is to get him to see that, he did have a role to play, and that his working hours were too long, and his wife was not getting her needs met in the marriage, and she was feeling ignored. And she told him many a times that I'm feeling ignored, but he didn't listen. And then finally, the psychoanalyst tries to make the man realize that maybe he had a very demanding mother who, always talked about achievement, how important achievement is to her. You must be the best of your class. You must be the highest earning man in the neighborhood. Otherwise, you're not worthy, And what the child hears is, till I don't get to that point in my life, I'm not worthy of my mother's love. So he starts to become an overachiever. He starts to become ambitious. He starts to become a workaholic, and he won't stop. He won't stop till he gets that approval of his mother. And so you can see how it's built up in layers. So that layer is the innermost layer. And then there's the layer of the man who becomes a workaholic and, very upstanding in society and always behaves himself well. And he's like, it's all because he's trying to get his mother's approval. And eventually what happens is that his maladaptive behavior of working long hours and being an overachiever and being obsessed with his money starts to, play into his marriage, and his wife starts to feel that she's not as important. Somewhere deep down in her mind also, she knows that she's not as important as his mother. So her approval, her happiness is not important. It's the mother who needs to approve. So she can sense that. She can sense that she's not as important. So the psychoanalyst has to make them realize that there's this dynamic which is going on between them. So this is how it works. It's like peeling layers of an onion and trying to get from one depth layer into another. That's why it's called depth psychology. And this is a classic example of how psychoanalysis would work, for example, in a case.